UFC 317 International Fight Week, Charles Olivera takes on Ilia Topuria in a vacated lightweight clash. We will be giving our full card predictions and breakdowns for every single fight, starting with the early prelims, finishing with the amazing main event. And we start off in the welterweight division between Jacoby Smith taking on Nico Price. Jacoby Smith, coming into this one, he's 1-0 in the UFC. He's a 10-0 prospect, and the guy's like a minus 1,500 favorite in this fight.
Damn, really?
Yeah, he is. Seen...
That's something I didn't do with these notes. I didn't see any of the odds for them. It's all off what I think is going to happen.
So, like, we've seen these big favorites this year especially come crashing down. This fight, however, I genuinely just see the massive favorite Jacoby Smith coming in and knocking out Nico Price probably early in the fight. Jacoby Smith, also known as Evil Aljamain Sterling, coming into the UFC, he knocks out Preston Parsons in the first couple minutes. That's an impressive one. Yeah. Preston Parsons is solid. The guy has very legit UFC experience against good people. To come in there and finish him as quickly as he did, that's very impressive. He also looked good in the Dana White Contender Series, and he's a power wrestler that's developed really clean hands, and he mixes in his wrestling very well with very vicious ground and pound. It's just a very hard stylistic matchup for someone like Nico Price. Nico Price coming in here, he's 35 years old now. He's 8-8 overall in the UFC. He's a very fun fighter. He does everything solid. However, these fun fighters that put their chin on the line and their bodies on the line every single fight in their early 20s and their 20s, they can't fight like that the same when they're 35. Exactly. It reminds me of Tony Ferguson. It reminds me, like, when you're doing all this unorthodox shit and getting hit a lot, but you're able to take that damage.
You could even say Cody, honestly.
You can say Cody, yeah. Although he hasn't been dropped in, like, 4 years, actually.
Yeah, that's fair.
But now he's gun shy. He doesn't fight how he used to.
Exactly.
However...
First round, though, he was looking good, though.
Don't
See that video I sent you? He was close to it first round.
Don't even get me in there for a second. Nico Price, however, he lost his last fight to Themba Gorimbo by 30-27 decision. Themba's just not great. I mean, yeah. He was dominated in that fight. He's 2-6 in his last 8. His only wins are like an old-ass Alex Morono. And I think the UFC knows what they're doing here in this fight. This seems to be... What are they putting Nico Price on this one, the start of International Fight Week, to get an upset win over the 10-0 Jacoby Smith?
Yeah.
No, it's got Jacoby Smith by knockout written all over it. I'm going to take him by round 1 KO.
Round 1? Yeah. I'm taking him by round 2 KO, and I also wrote down maybe decision if Nico Price can thug it out and get to the end.
That's fair.
I think he could lose a 30-27 decision, honestly. But yeah, I'm taking Nico Price, I'm taking Jacoby Smith by round 2 KO.
Yeah, Jacoby's 80% finish rate, 8 wins by KO, 2 by decision. So again, the decision is, it's not like this guy's coming in there finishing everyone, so there is that possibility. Nico does have a chin, but recently...
he could just tough it out. He could old head tough it out until Kurt Hollowell style.
That's fair. We move on to the heavyweight division. We have Jahanta Deniz taking on Alvin Hines. Pretty weird fight. Jahanta Deniz was originally supposed to fight Junior Tafa, but Tafa had to pull out. I'm not really sure why. Deniz coming into this one, he will have a 2-inch height advantage being 6'4" and a 5-inch reach advantage having a 79 compared to 74. The guy's also had more UFC experience. Obviously, he's 2-1 in the promotion, 8-1 overall compared to Hines, 7-0 making his UFC debut here. Deniz lost his last fight by TKO, a doctor stoppage to Marcin Tybura, where he dropped Tybura really bad in that first round, had him in all sorts of trouble, and then Tybura, with the crafty vet, started mixing in the wrestling, and that was really where Deniz it looked like he was a white belt on the ground. He did not know what the hell to do. Got hit with the big elbow on the ground, split him open, and that was that. So it's just like... Tybura is a legit top 10 heavyweight. Alvin Hines is not. I don't think he will ever be. That's no disrespect. It's just I don't see him winning this fight, first of all, if I just have to get it out there. Let alone getting a couple wins in the future. I don't really see it, to be honest. Deniz, his wins in the UFC, he beat Carl Williams in a bad decision. It was an extremely boring fight. However, did have the flatline KO over Austin Lane, which a lot of people like to see Lane get knocked out. I actually kind of like that guy. Jahanta Deniz looks to brawl, however. He throws loopy hooks. He is a former Glory kickboxer, so he definitely will have the speed and I think the power advantage and the striking advantage in this fight against Alvin Hines. It's not like we're getting a 25-year-old 7-0 heavyweight prospect coming into this one. Hines is stepping in on like a week, 2 weeks notice. He's 33 years old. Newcomer, he's very sloppy. I watched like 3 of his fights on YouTube. He's very sloppy, but does have some serious power. And for as kind of fat and out of shape as the guy looks, he throws a sneaky head kick. Yeah, I believe he won a fight by head kick KO a couple fights ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Round 2, I think.
Yeah, so that's interesting. It's just, do we think that the Glory kickboxers are going to get hit with an Alvin Hines head kick? I don't think so.
Probably not.
Hines, however, does look for a little bit of wrestling. I did see a little bit of it where he did work a GMP. He has a couple submissions. He looks to advance positions a little bit. The question is, do I think that he's going to be able to really get these takedowns on Jahanta Deniz? I honestly don't really. I just think that the speed advantage is just going to be too much for Deniz here. I think that he's just going to be Deniz is going to be popping that 1-2, popping those hooks, eating up the calf early. And Alvin's just kind of going to be out on his feet a little bit, not really knowing what to do.
I agree with that. I think he's going to start the fight with a lot of leg kicks, 100%. He's going to attack the legs of him. He's going to out kickbox him into, in my opinion, round 2, 3 KO. So,
I have Deniz by round 2 flatline. I think he's going to chin him really bad.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. We move on to the worst fight on the card, in my opinion. We have Cedricus Dumas taking on newcomer Jackson McVeigh. I say worst fight on this card because
it's Cedric.
Cedricus Dumas is just not UFC level.
It's the worst fighter on the card.
Yeah, he might be the worst fighter in the UFC.
In the UFC, chill, bro.
No, who's better?
Allow me to think of one. Who's better?
Or who's worse than him? Who's worse than him, sorry.
Allow me to think, so.
Who's better at being worse than Cedricus Dumas?
Keep going, I'll find one.
Okay. Cedricus Dumas, coming into this fight, he will be 2 inches shorter at 6'2". McVeigh is a tall 6'4". However, Cedric will also have a slight reach advantage, having a 79 to a 77. Cedricus Dumas is 10-3 overall. He's 3-3 in the UFC. The fact that he has 3 wins under the UFC banner is ridiculous to me. But then you deep dive into who the guys beat, and you go, oh, those guys actually might be worse than Cedricus Dumas. Now I'm going to say these. So what I have written down here is just that he's a notoriously bad fighter. He's been finished in all 3 of his UFC fights, that being a round 1 KO in his last fight to Michael Olajaychuk. Before then, he barely beat Dennis Tululin. Dennis Tululin finished his career 11-10 overall, 1-5 in the UFC. The only person who didn't finish Dennis Tululin, Cedricus Dumas. Took him to a real close decision. Nail biter. Nail biter, if you will.
It was.
He was also chinned by Nursultan Ruzaboyev. There's not too much shame in that, but there is shame in a submission loss to Josh Fremd.
I have sympathy for him on that one.
For Ruzaboyev.
I'm saying, do you remember the eye poke though?
Yeah, I did.
I low-key agree with that. That was an eye. He got eye poked right before he got dropped and absolutely finished on the cage. And yeah, I was feeling bad for him in that one, but at the same time, you got K'd by Nursultan as you should have, and it's just kind of embarrassing.
That's going to happen. But again, the submission loss to Josh Fremd, that's not good.
Brutal.
That's not good.
Holy, I just remembered exactly where we were when we watched that. That was when Cedric had hype to...
Yeah. His UFC wins, like I said, are terrible, being Cody Brundage by decision, Abu Azaitar by decision, and Dennis Tululin by decision. Cedric has terrible fight IQ, 0 power. He lacks aggression, and I guess his best part of his game would maybe be his kicks and a little bit of his grappling.
Yeah.
But it's just like...
What are the odds?
Cedric's a slight underdog.
Slight?
Yeah.
Wow. I was about to say, I advise everyone to go look at Cedric Dumas' Instagram and go watch his training videos and see why you should bet on whoever the fuck he fights against.
Not to mention that this guy was in jail like 2 weeks ago for robbing his ex-girlfriend and attacking her, and ended up getting caught by the police in a dog crate. And then just gets tossed on International Fight Week, short notice. It's like, was this guy really in fight camp ready shape? Is he even focused on the UFC? Is he more focused on fucking getting out of jail? Like, I don't even, I mean that. And he's fighting Jackson McVeigh here. He's 26 years old, 6-0, making his debut. McVeigh has a 100% finish rate with 3 KOs, 3 submissions, even across the board. However, they are against pretty low-level guys, but most of his fights are ending in the first round. He looks pretty sluggish on the feet, however, he does throw a decent body kick, and his punches don't look very powerful. However, he does actually seem like a decent submission threat. He got a takedown and instantly locked in an anaconda, a Darce choke. He also has a standing guillotine on his record, so it's just like, and they did look legit. It was like his punches were looking sloppy, but then the second that it went to the ground, it was all business. Like the guy looked pretty fluid on the ground, and I think that that's something that Cedrikus Dumas is going to struggle with. I haven't seen McVeigh, however, be in deep waters, as in late round 2 or round 3. So there is a world where Cedrikus Dumas can kind of maybe, I don't know if survives the word with someone like Jackson McVeigh, but get out of that first round.
Just win just get out of the first round and win a decision.
Yeah,
28, sorry.
Yeah, and end up edging those second and third rounds, maybe dominating him in the third. But I'm going to take the hungry guy, Jackson McVeigh, to actually win this fight by submission in either rounds 1 or 2.
I saw that.
I do.
It's funny that you said rounds 1 or 2.
Yeah.
I normally have more sympathy with Cedric. If you go back in the videos, I normally let him. I always think he's going to lose, but I normally give him a decision, here and there. I have hope for him. I wrote it down again. I always want to see him do good. Like, I used to actually be a fan of him.
Yeah,
and I honestly still am, to a point. Follow him on Instagram, see all of his stuff that he does, commenting, funny shit with him, whatever. In this case, I am going to have to take McVeigh by round 1-2 KO.
Round 1-2 KO? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're not going to sleep against who Cedric's fighting this time, and I think he's going to get put out early, and then we'll be talking about if he should be in the UFC or not. So
yeah, and it's not like McVeigh is this fucking demon prospect.
Right. No, exactly. Yeah.
So
to put more perspective into what I'm saying right now, I'm just hating on Cedric a lot, and I think it's gonna finally show.
Sometimes, sometimes when I'm picking a fighter, I'm almost, when it comes to someone like McVeigh, I haven't seen too much on him. I'm almost picking against Cedrikus Dumas.
Right, that's exactly pretty much what I was just explaining.
Yeah.
Obviously, I haven't seen that much on Jackson McVeigh. If I'm being honest, I couldn't even find any videos of him on TikTok.
Yeah.
So I've really just seen him on paper.
It was a baseball player.
Yeah,
or something.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is the same shit that came up for me.
Yeah, I tried to find that.
So yeah, to that point, to add on to that, haven't seen anything on him. I know I'm off paper, but I'm gonna pick him against Cedric Dumas because I think it's time that we start publicly talking about if he should be in the UFC or not. Because really, it sounds like it's just me and you right now who just say every other week, Cedric should not be in the UFC compared to all these fighters that are getting cut and shit. But
Colin Lochran, fuck.
Man.
I'm going to start it with something.
Yeah, I was just about to say, don't make me go through the list. But yeah, I think it's about time that we see Cedric take an L, and then we'll be gambling with where his life should be at right now and if it deserves to be in the UFC or not. So
yeah. So Jackson McVeigh, we split on what method of victory, but by finish is the official pick for Jackson McVeigh early in the fight. We move on to a great fight in the lightweight division. We have Terrence T-Rex McKinney taking on Vyacheslav Slavoklas Borshov. Terrence McKinney, we both know very well. We interviewed him as our first little podcast interview thing, and it was fun. Terrence is awesome. A good guy.
He put us on the map a little bit. He
did.
He was a good fighter to get in video one for sure. So.
Yeah, ended up winning that fight by round 1 KO in his last fight against Damir Hadzovic. He was kind of supposed to win that fight, but ultimately McKinney does what McKinney does, and he gets him out in round 1. Terrence McKinney 6-4 in the UFC and 16-7 overall. McKinney's never seen the scorecards in his professional career. He is the definition of kill or be killed. You know that you're going to get a bang for your buck when you're betting on Terrence McKinney because the guy can, on any given day, can go out and beat the best guy in the world and also lose to the worst guy in the world.
And I'll agree with you every single time on that. He really can beat anyone, goddamn near anyone in the UFC in the first round of any fight.
Yeah.
He puts up a good fight with anyone in the first round, so...
So how he beat Damir Hadzovic is how I think exactly how he's going to beat Slavoklas Borshov here. Okay. He tested out the striking a little bit on the feet. He looked good. He throws a lot of these crazy head kicks. He's so fucking fast, and he's right when that bell rings, Terrence McKinney's out throwing punches at you, as we saw in his UFC debut where he KO'd Matt Frevola in literally 7 seconds for the fastest knockout in lightweight history, one of the fastest of all time. Terrence, I think, can just... How do we see Vyacheslav Borshov lose fights? It's usually not in striking fights because he is an amazing striker. We know how good his kickboxing is. He was a former kickboxer. He's losing these fights by getting taken down, mauled, And funny enough, like in his last one, he was dropped, or not in his last one, but he was dropped recently by Chase Hooper. The striking difference there, like, is just ridiculous, and Chase Hooper's getting a drop on him. Slava's chin isn't what it used to be. He got 10-7 by Hooper and ended up getting submitted in the second round. I love a good Slava Claus fight, but at the end of the day, the guy's 8-5 overall, 3 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw in the UFC, and I just haven't seen anything impressive from him recently. His chin hasn't held up over the past couple of years. He hasn't been successful in terms of winning fights, besides his split decision win over James Lalontop, who is okay, but he went 0-3 overall in the UFC.
Yeah.
And Terrence McKinney's losses, like, everyone likes to kind of clown Terrence because he just gets knocked out or like finished in these brutal fashions. But again, like, if we want to go over his losses, they all have aged very well. Drew Dober, Ismail Bonfim, Nazem Sadikov, Esteban Ribovic, and Sean Woodson back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's even got a submission win over Faraz Zion, who is pretty good on the ground, better than someone like Borshev. I think that if Terrence doesn't shoot for takedowns, then we kind of have a battle of, oh shit, is Terrence's chin going to hold up against someone like Borshev?
Right.
But the same question can be asked about Vyacheslav Borshev, and I don't even think we're going to need to question this because Terrence McKinney is going to use his wrestling. He's very solid everywhere the fight goes, and I think that he's ultimately going to win by round 1 KO or submission.
I thought you were just going to say submission, but yeah, I have the exact same pick then. Give me Terrence round 1. Don't know the method. Can't pin it down.
Because you never know.
No, exactly. Because I see Vyacheslav getting dropped in round 1. I actually can see that. And when the fight first got announced, I actually thought it was going to be way more of a tougher fight than I feel like it's going to be for Terrence now. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I thought it was going to be like a tough matchup, and I was leaning towards taking Borshev. Now I'm convinced, and I'm going to go Terrence round 1.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to come because he's going to drop Borshev, and he's either going to jump on him, take his back right away, and sub him out, either cold if he doesn't want to tap, or if he's already half out, or he's just going to ground and pound the quick Terrence, the little boom, 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 with this little jerk looking hammer fist, and then he'll just get a stoppage when he's not throwing up his hands anymore. So give me Terrence in round 1 in the 4th minute, if we're being exact. That's the prediction.
And Terrence
last minute of the first round.
Terrence also has a 4-inch reach advantage here, and Borshev's not getting any younger, being 33. It's just like I don't think this is going to go well for Slava. Bro. Terrence McKinney round 1 finish is the pick for both of us.
Come on, Terrence.
We move on to Tracy Cortez taking on Viviane Araujo.
We can get fired up for a chick fight, dude. Let's go.
Tracy Cortez will enjoy a 7-year age advantage, I guess, being 7 years younger, 31, compared to the old vet now, 38 years old, Viviane Araujo. Cortez is 5-1 in the UFC, 10-1 overall, compared to Araujo's 7-5 in the UFC, 13-6 overall. Tracy's coming off her 5-round decision loss to Rose Namajunas, where she lost 4-1. She was realistically beaten everywhere. She was even dropped in that fight and controlled for almost 7 minutes. However, you do go back a fight before then, she had a very impressive win over Jasmine Jasudavicius, where she exposed the striking significantly. Jasmine looked fucking horrible. I'm now just coming back to Jasmine being a pretty good fighter because that fight made me see Jasmine as this very poor striker.
Yeah. As it should, though. She got masterclass.
Yeah. And also a little fun fact I'm not sure a lot of people know is Tracy Cortez in 2019 took the undefeated record of Erin Blanchfield.
My 2 wives.
Tracy Cortez is not a finisher, however. She has, I believe, 1 KO and 1 sub overall out of 10 wins, 8 coming by decision, her only decision loss there. Cortez looks to mix in wrestling as well, averages 2 takedowns per 15, and does like to box with some solid hands. Viviane Araujo coming off a actual very solid win over Karine Silva, who was undefeated at the time, kind of tearing up the bottom of the division. Again, like, there's a difference between just beating these guys. She's finishing all these ladies before fighting Viviane Araujo. However, Karine's cardio just fell right off a cliff. So it's just like she was getting all these early finishes, and then it's like the one time you go late into the fight against Araujo, you lose. Yeah. It's like, can we really credit that win too high? I kind of need to see Karine fight. Karine is very solid, though. She has an 80% takedown defense, although does have a negative striking ratio. She was known back in the day for a pretty solid striker, but now she's just kind of getting beat to these punches. She's looking a little bit slower. However, I do think that she's going to be able to stuff a lot of these Tracy Cortez takedowns. I think that Cortez will eventually get a couple, and I think that she will outstrike her just slightly. I'm going to take Tracy Cortez to win this fight by 29-28 split decision. I think that it actually could be pretty close.
And when you said that on the course today, I don't know if it convinced me or it made me just realize that I think it is going to be way closer than I thought it was.
Yeah.
And I'm literally also going to take Tracy Cortez by a 29-28 split.
Yeah, I like the split in this fight a lot. Yeah. I don't agree with the odds.
I think it's going to be a good mix-up of being on the ground, though, and being on the feet.
Yeah. I'm interested to see if... Because Viviani does look to throw some...
Let's go. Back-to-back bangers, for real.
Viviani does look to throw some takedowns as well, although I don't think she'll have too much success. So
probably not.
Cortez by split is the pick. We move on to a banger. Low-key in the featherweight division, we have Hyder the Hurricane Emil taking on Jose Delgado.
An op to Octagon Insights, for real.
Yes. Where do I even start with this one? Hyder Emil coming into this fight, he's 11-0, 3-0 in the UFC. However, he is a little bit on the older side, being 35 years old compared to Jose Delgado, who is a very legit surging prospect at 27 years old. Hyder Emil on his Dana White Contender Series, I was not impressed with the guy.
Out of the fighting nerds, right? Delgado?
That I'm not sure.
I think he is.
Could be. That I actually do not know.
Fact check myself here.
Hyder, his win on the Dana White Contender Series, I was not impressed with. The guy he was fighting, both guys were just leaving their chins way too high up in the air, extremely hittable. However, he has looked a lot better coming in off a win over William Gomes in a controversial split decision win. However, I do think that he just ever slightly maybe could have got it done. Before then, he KO'd Young Lee in 1 minute by KO, where both guys just decided to Max Holloway, Justin Gaethje, point to the center of the octagon right when the bell started. It lasted for 1 minute, and Hyder Emil came out on top. That's genuinely what happened. I've been flip-flopping on this fight all week because someone like Jose Delgado coming into this one, he's 9-1 overall, 1-0 in the UFC. He's coming off his debut win by first-round KO over Connor Matthews, where he looked impressive, landing big shots early, ultimately finding the finish.
Yo, do you not remember Connor telling us that he was a fighting nerd, though?
No, that wasn't him.
For sure it wasn't?
No, that was...
Who was
it? That's the guy... That's someone that Connor fought on the Dana White Contender Series in his second time around.
Oh, fuck me. It was, too. Thank you.
Yeah. Delgado, however... He finishes Connor Matthews in his UFC debut. And I mean this with the utmost respect to Connor Matthews. I don't know how high that we can rate that win. In terms of he looked great doing it. Yeah, he looked good, but...
Yeah, I don't even need to say it.
I won't even say it, man. However, Jose Delgado is a very serious striker. He also has a 100% finish rate, 5 KOs, 4 submissions. The guy's throwing very looping hooks and wild kicks. We haven't seen much of Jose Delgado's gas tank, however. I think his skills are better than Hyder Emil's, but Hyder Emil has a fucking chin of fucking steel on him. And we've seen him go 3 hard rounds with someone like William Gomes, who is very fast on the feet, similar to Jose Delgado in that way, except Delgado will have more power. I'm going to end up ultimately siding with Hyder Emil to end up winning this fight as an underdog by decision. I think that he will drop the first round, but as the rounds go, I think that we're really going to see Delgado start to fade after Hyder takes his best shots and keeps throwing bombs back at him. And Hyder can even mix in a little bit of wrestling. We saw it against Gomes. I think he had 1 or 2 takedowns in that fight, so it'd be a smart approach for him. I'm taking Hyder Emil to win by decision.
This could be a hot pick by me right here. If I'm keeping it quick, I'm going to go with Delgado by KO. I think he's either going to get it done in, it's probably going to be early, actually.
It's going to be round 1.
We're being realistic. It's going to be around 1 or 2, first minute of round 2, first 2 minutes or something like that. But, yeah, I mean, was the Connor Matthews win not really good? It was stylish and it looked really good and it was gross KO, but at the same time, no disrespect, like you just said, it was over Connor Matthews, who is not in the UFC anymore and who went on an ultimately terrible stint after we interviewed. So,
right.
So I think Jose's going to stay hot. I think he's going to keep going for a little bit. How old is he?
He's 27.
Yeah, okay. Decently young, you know?
That's young.
Yeah.
That's young.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Delgado staying hot. I think he finds an early finish in this. And if he doesn't, then I kind of agree with what you're saying. I think Hyder Emil is going to be more consistent through the second and third round, like energy and pace-wise, like just with his volume, sorry, is what I was trying to say. And if it gets out of round 1 and he doesn't get K'd in the first, 2 minutes, then yeah, it's probably going to be Emil by decision, so I'm going to be sprinkling that, but give me a hot pick at Delgado by KO in the rounds 1 or 2.
I don't think that's even too hot. Again, what I was saying is I was so flip-flop on this fight. I definitely saw the recklessness of Emil and the power from Delgado. They could definitely just clash and end up with Emil getting flatlined. It's just, I'm going to take the vet to weather the storm a little bit and win the decision. So we split on that fight. Delgado KO, Emil decision for myself, and we move on.
I'm interested to see who you have in this next one.
Another fight that I have seriously been flip-flopping about, I will say again.
Okay.
Yeah. We have RoboCop Gregory Rodriguez taking on Jack the Joker Hermanson. I actually have a lot to say about this fight. Gregory Rodriguez is 16-6, 7-3 in the UFC compared to Jack Hermanson's 24-8 and 11-6 in the UFC. Gregory Rodriguez coming off that main event loss to Jared Cannonier, where he had Jared in all sorts of trouble in round 1. He dropped him twice. It looked like the fight could have been done, but he faded really bad and ultimately ended up getting put out in the 4th round by Jared at the end of the 4th round.
So annoying.
His wins in the UFC, Gregory Rodriguez, are actually pretty bad. His best one being Jung Young Park by KO. That's impressive. But that was 4 years ago. Yeah. He also had a comeback win over Chidi and Njokuani way back in the day. But Robo is slightly chinny. I believe 3 of his losses come by KO. I know he got chinned by Bruno Ferreira, also in his last fight, obviously, to Jared Cannonier. His cardio is terrible. However, the guy is extremely skilled. He has serious power. He is a fucking massive human being. It says he's 6'3". I bet when this fight, when they're in the cage, the guy's going to look 6'5". He always does. He's
G-Rod?
Yes. The guy is huge. And he's got very slick BJJ. He's got good wrestling in his own right. Jack Hermanson, on the other hand, he's coming off a big main event win over Joe Pyfer. It was a 5-round fight where he was eating those big shots in rounds 1 and 2. Was getting teed off on a lot. However, took those big shots and ended up winning rounds 3, 4, and 5.
Weathered the storm.
And this is the same type of thing. You look at, so Gregory Rodriguez lands those big shots round 1, starts fading, ends up getting finished late in the fight. And then you have Jack Hermanson, eats those big shots, ends up coming back because he has good cardio and the guy fades. It's pretty much the same fight except both sides of the fucking story. However, I'm not sure if it's just going to shape out like that. There's a little bit of a difference in terms of opponents and the fact that this is a 3-round fight. Yeah. Jack the Joker has fought 1 time in the past 3 years. He's now 37 years old. Yes, he looked good in his last fight against Pyfer, but it took him to the 3rd round for him to wake up. And that's a little bit scary going into something against a guy like Gregory Rodriguez, who I think is better than Joe Pyfer, who I think probably has more power and just more dangerous ultimately. Jack Hermanson's good everywhere. I think his best work being his grappling. He mixes in takedowns pretty well. However, I don't see that being a big thing here against Gregory Rodriguez, and I don't see his striking overwhelming Gregory at all. I think that Gregory is going to know not to fucking go full out in the 1st round anymore because that's clearly stupid. And I think that in this fight, he's not going to have someone like Jared Cannonier running at you the whole fight because Jared's got fucking wicked cardio himself. Throwing these power shots at you, you don't have that in front of you anymore. You have Jack Hermanson, 37 years old, fights once every 3 years.
Well, how old is Jared?
Jared at that time was 40 years old.
Yeah.
But again, Jared is unreal for his age. He's not 40 years old.
He looked 40 years old in round 1.
Yeah, he did. But he looked 30 years old in round 3 and 4. So I like Gregory Rodriguez to ultimately win this fight either by round 1 KO or by decision. Ultimately, there is a world where Hermanson does win this decision. It's just, it really took Gregory till round 3 for his cardio to really start going off a cliff. And I don't think that his cardio is going to be depleting as much, like I said, against someone like Hermanson rather than Cannonier. So I do think that it's going to hold up for these first 2 rounds, and I think he'll probably drop the 3rd round, ultimately winning a 29-28 decision. Or he gets him out of there, lands that big shot in round 1, which is definitely a possibility, especially with the age of Hermanson now and inactivity.
Yeah. All right, so we're close to the same pick then. I'll start by saying I'm going to take Hermanson by decision. I'm calling this my underdog of the night. On the UFC website, they have him listed at plus 164. I personally think that that's a joke. I did not like Gregory Rodriguez's last fight one bit. I thought he looked really good in round 1, but I also thought it was because of Jared looking very bad in round 1. Trying not to be biased because I did lose a good amount of money on that fight. I had G-Rod, and that was pretty annoying, but if I'm honestly using my head, I think he looked absolutely terrible, and going into this fight, I think he's going to do the exact same thing he did against Jared. I think he's going to come out absolutely throwing for the fences, and he's going to try and get him out early, try and make back his last fight pretty much. He's going to come out here wanting a round 1 finish over a guy who's a little bit younger than Jared, who he knows that he can probably do good against. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think he's going to get a round 1 KO. I think he's going to have way more volume than Jack in the first round. He's probably going to double him on strikes, and I'm going to come back and see if that happened after I just said that. And so Jack's going to give up round 1, and then he's going to come out round 2, maybe working a couple takedowns. G-Rod might start to fade a tiny bit. I'm expecting him not to, though, because like you just said, he started gassing out in kind of later 3rd, early 4th round was when it got really bad. Pretty much the 3rd. I'm pretty sure it was the 3rd. But I think Jack's going to win rounds 2 and 3. By the 3rd round, if it gets to the 2-minute 30 or 2-minute 30-second mark, I think G-Rod's going to be on his back, panting, red, not knowing how to get up. So I'm going to have to go with Jack Hermanson by decision on this and call him my underdog of the night.
I rate that. I do rate a Jack Hermanson pick because I do see that for sure. We move on to a banger in the bantamweight division. I want to highlight it is at bantamweight now because Felipe Lima's first 2 UFC fights came at featherweight. So he's dropping down to bantamweight here against Peyton Talbot. Peyton Talbot, the fall from grace is absolutely unbelievable after 1 loss. The guy is 31. The guy's 3-1 in the UFC, 9-1 overall, coming off that dominant 30-26 defeat to Raoni Barcelos, where he was just outstruck significantly. Raoni would go bow, 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 takedown, get the takedown every single time. Dom held him down pretty well. And his UFC wins, his best win now, Peyton Talbot this is Cameron Simon, which I love Cameron Simon. I think that he's a very talented guy. That win just isn't aging very well. Simon now on a 3-fight losing streak.
Yeah, that's fair. I'd say it's not aging well, but at the time I feel like that was pretty good.
It was a good win.
Yeah.
It was a good win.
And it was gross, too.
Yeah. But Peyton Talbot, we saw in his UFC debut, the guy got taken down like 3 or 4 times. And Felipe Lima is a guy that is very dangerous everywhere. He's one of my favorite prospects coming up right now. Chutabox guy, 14-1 overall, 2-0 in the UFC. He's coming off an impressive decision win over Miles Johns, who is a pretty solid fighter. Lima took Johns down 2 out of 5 times, and Johns had an 85% takedown defense. So this is a guy, Miles Johns, who's big, short, which is harder to take down.
Damn near a mini Pekka, bro.
Pretty much a mini Pekka.
Damn near a mini Pekka.
With 85% takedown defense that Felipe Lima is getting 2 out of 5, 40% takedowns on. Against a tall 5'10" Peyton Talbot who really lacks in takedown defense, I think this is going to be where the fight takes place. It's going to be the method of victory, and it's just the smart approach to fighting Peyton Talbot now. I feel like Rowney's really set that blueprint for at least a couple fights for Peyton, because it's not like you're going to come back and you're just going to be Jack Della Maddalena takedown defense. That's not going to happen. Not yet.
Same Peyton Talbot?
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
you're not going to improve that significantly.
I agree.
And Lima had a very impressive UFC debut where he submitted Mohamed Naimov in the 3rd round in a back-and-forth fight where Lima got the back late in the 3rd, and that was a wrap from there, rear naked choke. Naimov, that's his only loss in the UFC. That guy's now 5-1 in the UFC with wins over Nathaniel Wood. That was a bullshit fucking decision. But again, that's a really good win for someone making their UFC debut. Lima has legit hands. He's got legit finishes wherever the fight goes. And overall, I don't think he's going to find a submission in this fight. I think that he's going to have a couple submission attempts for sure. And I think that he's ultimately going to win himself a 29-28 unanimous decision.
Lima?
Yeah.
Why did I think you had Talbot going into this? You started firing me up there when you were talking about Lima like that. I swear I thought you had Talbot.
No.
But pretty much all I wrote down for this fight is this is going to be a sick fucking bang out. Shout out Bean is Lit from Real. He knows I've had both these fighters' cards, so this actually means a lot to me, and I'm very fired up for it. I have sold them both, meaning I've lost a little bit of faith in both of them, but it's also just not worth it for the app. I think Lima's still a prospect, but I think Payne Talbot should have kept his hair. I don't think he's going to win this fight. I'm going to have to go with Felipe Lima by either third round submission or decision. Yeah, I pretty much left it at I think Payton is not going to win because he cut his hair. Should have kept it. So, should have kept it. Give me the shoot box, boy. I think shoot box goes, sadly, 1-1 tonight, and this is going to be their dub. So, I'm taking the prospect Felipe Lima out of my boy Charles Jim. Shout out Lenny Shirt, for real. And, give me Felipe Lima by third round submission or 29-28 decision. He gives up round 1.
Yeah. One thing the last thing about this fight I find kind of funny is Payton Talbot in his last fight was like a minus 1,300 favorite. He's coming into this fight as a underdog.
Oh, yeah.
He's
okay,
like plus one.
What the odds are. I knew that though. I also wrote down that minus 200 for Lima.
Yeah.
I personally do think that's a joke. I don't know if I'll be betting on the fight.
I don't think
it is a lot closer than that. You don't think that's a joke? I personally think that's a joke. Like, this should damn near be a pick'em. The fact that Brandon Royval and Joshua Van is a pick'em and Felipe Lima's a minus 200 over Payton Talbot, I don't know, man. It doesn't really make sense. It could be an upset, but I'm going to go with Lima.
The takedowns of Lima and the takedown defense of Payton Talbot is minus 200 worthy.
Okay. Yeah, like that honestly makes sense, but
like going
just the fact that he was a minus 13, 15? 1300 in his last fight. Nah, bro's an underdog against Felipe Lima. I mean, we'll see.
Yeah,
because Payton Talbot's good. Like I still think he's good. He's gonna have a sick career in the UFC, but
he should.
Yeah.
Alrighty, we move on to Brandon Raw Dog Royval taking on Joshua the Fearless Van. Very interesting fight. A huge step up in competition for Josh Van, and I don't think he's gonna get it done. No. That's the broad breakdown of it. But Brandon Royval coming into this one, he will have a 4-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage, which is going to be huge in this fight. He's 7-3 in the UFC compared to Josh Van's 7-1 in the UFC. But when you go and look at the resumes of each fighter, it speaks for itself. Royval has 2 losses to Pantoja, 1 to Moreno, I believe. While Josh Van's getting knocked out by Charles Johnson like a year and a half ago. But again, I'm not using that too much against him. It's just I'm comparing the level of fighters.
Yeah.
Josh Van in his last fight, he had an impressive third round TKO over Bruno Silva. But then again, Brandon Royval is on a 2-fight winning streak over Brandon Moreno and Tatsuro Taira. So it's just we're at different levels of the division right now. We have the number 14 ranked taking on the number 1 contender. This is due to Manel Kape pulling out due to I think he broke his foot or something. So the fearless Josh Van, he's going to step up whenever he can. I don't know why he wouldn't. The kid's 23 years old and could be fighting for a UFC title at the end of this year if he ultimately wins this fight.
Yeah.
This is a little bit too soon for Van, in my opinion. I think that everything that Van does really well, Royval does almost significantly better. Just because, man, Royval is that guy. Like I really think that if he can get a third shot against Pantoja, and I think Pantoja is one of the best fighters in the UFC currently. I think he's extremely underrated.
He's definitely up there.
But I think that Royval, third time around, can actually beat him. Josh Van, I don't. Royval throws very great knees. He has an amazing step-in knee. We saw him finish Mateus Nicolau with that. He also throws really good scrappy uppercuts. And the guy throws like very unorthodox type of strikes in terms of like you don't exactly know what the guy's gonna fucking throw at you. He also likes to mix in takedowns, and he is a submission threat. We saw him fucking submit Kai Kara-France. He submitted Matt Schnell. Decent wins there. And what does Josh Van seem to struggle with in terms of defensive work? It's these vertical shots. You saw the uppercut K him against Energy. And that seems to now be like a target thing. Edgar Chaira started spamming them. He wobbled him a little bit. Kevin Borjas tried it a little bit as well. I think that those dangerous strikes from Royval could maybe even drop and finish Van if he hits him with a dirty knee, especially with Van being so much shorter. And it's like, how is Van necessarily going to win this fight? Is he going to out-volume and out-box Brandon Royval progressively through the fight? Because we know that Van's traditionally a pretty slow starter. Royval is not. I think Royval's guaranteed got this first round. And then it's like Van kind of starts to turn it up then. Royval starts to turn it up then. Royval starts to turn up throughout the whole 5 rounds when he's in 5-round fights. Now we're back to 3 rounds. I think Royval is going to cruise to a 30-27 decision. I think it's going to be a really fun fight. It's just Royval is ultimately going to land the more punches, land the more damaging shots, maybe even have a couple actually don't think he'll get takedowns. Josh Van's takedown defense is stellar. We've seen maybe 1 though. And
I think he's going to get at least 2 or 3 takedowns on him personally.
Yeah, and I really think that knee,
maybe not 3. Maybe
I really think that knee is going to be a big problem for Van.
Yeah.
So I like Royval to win this fight by 30-27 unanimous decision.
All right, I've said this in the past. I want the real ones to make a very big deposit to FanDuel this weekend and absolutely hammer the shit out of Brandon Royval. Pick'em odds is absolutely ridiculous.
Royval's the underdog. He's not plus 100.
On UFC website still has him at plus 100. That's like damn near pick'em pretty much. Like we'll call it. I think that's close enough to be pick'em in my opinion. UFC website still has him as the favorite by a bit, so average it out, whatever. But last time I said what I just said was on Brandon Moreno versus Steve Versag. The boys happened to go 13 for 13, exact method, and turned $1 into $1,000 on that card. And I made about $500 off Brandon Moreno alone because of the big deposit that I told Mans to do. I'm going to say the exact same with this one. I think there's way too much money to be made off Brandon Royval. Joshua Van is absolutely insane. I love him. Phenomenal. He's 23 fucking years old, man. Like, it shows little shades of John Jones. Not saying he's going to be the GOAT, but it's like the fact that he's getting thrown into these fights and shit, like,
and stepping up and
willing to take these
and
still wanting to do it, being as active as he is, and he's pretty much still a damn near kid.
When did he fight?
He's 3 years older.
When did he fight last? Go check when he
Joshua
fought.
Van.
Yeah. I swear I just watched that guy fight fucking 2 weeks ago.
That's what I was thinking when we were fucking golfing today.
I swear he fought maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago.
Come on.
Who did he fight?
June 28th. Oh wait, no, I'm retarded, bro. June 7th.
He fought 2 weeks ago.
June 7th.
So he's gonna. This
June
is gonna be
7th,
second.
he beat Bruno Silva by 3rd round KO.
This is gonna be his second fight this
He's
month.
got to be dealing with a little bit of something still that he's just trying to hide. Like 10 hard leg kicks at least. Like hold on. He landed 76 significant strikes.
Who?
Like Bruno Silva, and this guy's fighting 2 weeks later.
Yeah, that's pretty wicked work.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Van, I think, broke the record for most knockdowns by a flyweight.
26 leg kicks. Like, that shit takes a toll on you in 2 weeks, man, when you're, like, taking that much damage at that level.
Especially by Bruno. That guy's
that's what I'm saying.
Big low
Yeah, so the odds are absolutely ridiculous for this. We're putting Joshua Van on a high horse way too high. Like, people forget, man, like, Charles Johnson out here. Energy Charles Johnson out here knocking out Joshua Van in what, round 3 was it? Round 3, uppercut KO. It's like... Oh, but now he's a pick-a-mod against a guy whose last loss was to Alexandre Pantoja for the belt. Since then has beat Tatsuro Taira and Brandon Moreno. Bro, it's exactly like you said earlier. Does Joshua Van beat Brandon Moreno right now?
No.
Respectfully, there's no way you say yes to that. And so yeah, I think the fat deposit is going to have to go on Brandon Royval here, and the odds actually kind of pissed me off how close they are. But hey, I mean, I'll take it. I genuinely appreciate it. Just means it's a money-making weekend, so... Give me Brandon Royval by either 3rd round KO or a decision, 30-27.
And another thing is that actually made me think a little bit there is Van keeps his cardio and starts to wear on people because they don't push him crazy hard.
Yeah.
Someone like Charles Johnson was on him from the jump, and by the time the 3rd round actually came around, Van was like...
He was not moving fast.
He was not as fast.
He was not moving fast.
And that's another thing where I think Royval is really going to take him into these deep. Well, I might be changing my pick on the fly to Royval by round 3 TKO.
Valid.
I genuinely might.
Because I genuinely think that's going to happen, and the odds are probably going to be ridiculous for that.
Yeah.
Like, ridiculous. So
I'm going to take Royval round 3 TKO or 30-27
and I love that
decision.
shit, bro. Good shit.
Yeah. We move on.
Next up.
Next up, in the lightweight division, we have Benedict Dariush. Beneil Old Man Dariush takes on another old man, Renato Moicano. These guys' birthdays are like 2 weeks apart. Little fun fact. Both guys 36 years old. You'd think that Moicano is maybe 3, 4, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years younger than Beneil by the looks of Dariush. The guy looks 50. Dariush, though, this guy's 16-6 in the UFC. 22-6 overall compared to Moicano's 20-6 overall and 12-6 in the UFC. People forget, man, Beneil Dariush was on an 8-fight win streak before fighting Charles Oliveira and Arman Tsarukyan. He was finished early in both of those fights. Again, that's Charles Oliveira, Arman Tsarukyan. Like, yes, he's getting finished, but that was a long time ago now, over a year, I believe, for both of them. Both of those lightweights as well have significantly more power than Renato Moicano. And this fight was supposed to happen in January and has now been rescheduled here. Dariush has wins over Gamrot, Ferguson, Drew Dober, Miller, Michael Johnson, Diego Ferreira ×2. He's been around. He's a very solid wrestler. He's a good BJJ player. And he has some bombs in his hands too. We saw him drop fucking Gamrot with an absolute Call of Duty hit marker.
Yeah.
And I have an interesting take on this fight. It's the fact that Renato Moicano isn't hungry anymore. He was on that.
He doesn't want money.
He was on that 5-fight winning streak, where, in hindsight, the wins weren't great. He beat Jalen Turner, who's now on a 3-fight losing streak out of the UFC, where he should have got finished in the first round. He did beat the piss out of Benoit Saint-Denis, but we saw Benoit Saint-Denis fight live against fucking Kyle Prepelec was his name, and Benoit he's a shell.
Man. Benoit's a marauder. Like, it's not a joke.
He's a shell of what he once was. So Moicano goes on that 5-point win streak and starts building a name for himself really at the end of his career. He was a top 5 featherweight in a title eliminator against Jose Aldo back at featherweight. People forget, man,
People
years
also
ago.
Forget again.
But he ends up getting a title shot against Islam Makhachev where he makes over $1 million in his last fight. And it's just like, you put in all that effort. You put in all that effort to get to that spot. And you end up just losing so quick, and now you're off making all your podcasts. He's already said in fight week so many times that he's so busy. He hasn't even been training as much as he usually does. It's like, we really can't be sleeping on Beneil Dariush like that, because he's a guy that's going to come in extremely well-rounded. I think that the grappling is going to cancel each other out, and I think that Beneil is a slightly better striker. Beneil has some of the best scrambles in the UFC. If you've ever seen Beneil versus Gamrot, the scrambling in that fight was unbelievable. I don't see Moicano being successful offensively with his takedowns, let alone finding submissions or anything. I see Beneil landing a couple takedowns. I see Beneil sneaking the jab a couple times. We saw Korean Zombie get off the center line of Moicano straight and knock him out cold. That's something Beneil Dariush does pretty well with his boxing. And overall, I like Beneil Dariush to ultimately land those takedowns, stuff takedowns, win minutes on the fence, and ultimately outland him a little bit to a 29-28 unanimous decision.
And I'm pretty much going to have to tell that, because that's exactly what I have.
Yeah.
I think the odds are ridiculous for this fight. Again, I think they're ridiculous. Plus 136, like, yeah, when I saw it, like, I'm thinking it was the same video that we must have saw of Moicano's, like, what is it? Whose podcast is it that he does it with? Maddie? It's his podcast?
Yeah.
Of him in that, like, a clip of him on that podcast saying that he's barely been training.
Yeah.
And they all laugh about it, and I'm like, bro, like, you're going against Beneil Dariush, like, it's still a 9 versus 10, like, ranked fight. Like, yeah, you can't be sleeping on Beneil like that, and I think the odds makers are too. And I'm gonna have to go with Beneil by decision, 29-28. And I'll be smacking that money line in the face because he could catch a late TKO.
There's so much recency bias going into this fight.
In the whole card, in my opinion.
Yeah,
the whole card.
Because it's not like Beneil's 30, or it's not like sorry, let me restart that. Beneil's 36 years old, coming off 2 knockout losses, sure, but it's not like Moicano's this young, hungry, fucking devastating knockout power threat. Like, he's a low power, not high output chain grappler who looks for subs. That's someone that Beneil Dariush is really going to have success on, especially in these scrambles. So I like Dariush to win this fight. We move on to our co-main event. A title fight in the flyweight division between Alexandre the Cannibal Pantoja taking on Kai Kara France. This is going to be a fun fight. We have the dominant champion Alexandre Pantoja looking to make his 4th title defense over a person that he's already beat back in the day, 9 years ago actually, in the Ultimate Fighter, Kai Kara France. Pantoja is 13-3 in the UFC compared to Kara France's 8-4. Pantoja is the 2nd best flyweight of all time. I don't think there's any debate behind it anymore.
Probably not.
It's Demetrius Johnson and then it's Alexandre Pantoja. He's on a 7-fight win streak, subbing Kaya Sakura out cold in his last fight. Very impressive. He looked amazing in that fight. Before then, had that close fight with Urseg, which hasn't aged very well, but Urseg did look really good in that fight, I'm not going to lie. Before, had an impressive win over Royval and beat Brandon Moreno for the belt. He's beat Royval 3 times, or he's beat Moreno 3 times. He's beat Royval twice. He's already beat Kai Kara France. He's already beat Manel Kopp. The guy has a fucking resume. Urseg, Asakura, these are his low-tier wins. It's just
for real.
This is a very impressive. You're looking at one of the greatest fighters in the UFC right now. Kai Kara France, however, there's going to be some challenges here because Kai has an 88% takedown defense. He has bombs in his hands, but in my opinion, I don't think he's going to land that bomb on Pantoja. If he does, I think that Pantoja eats it like he always fucking does. Kai Kara France, the fight that's really kind of sticking out to me now is we can do some MMA math. Alexandre Pantoja has a loss to Askar Askarov, and Kai Kara France had a very impressive win over Askar Askarov, where he stuffed the takedowns extremely well. Like, he's getting picked up. Askarov's picking up Pantoja and trying to slam him, and he's just landing on his feet.
Or Kai?
Kai.
Yeah, Kai.
Yeah, just landing right on his feet, and very impressive stuff. However, why the fuck is Kai Kara France getting this title shot? Yeah, you're coming off that round 1 KO over Steve Urseg, which is now his 3rd loss in a row. But the guy's 1-2 in his last 3. Sure, he had that bullshit split decision loss to Amir Albazi. It's still a loss on your resume, and he was TKO'd 3 years ago now by a liver kick to Brandon Moreno. The guy fights once a year. He's very inactive now, and his wins aren't great overall. His best win maybe Cody Garbrandt at flyweight, which is just, that's never going to work out in 100 years. His best win is Askar Askarov, but then it'd be the Cody Garbrandt in terms of name value. I think in terms of name value.
No, nothing.
What?
We did the same thing at the same time.
Oh,
keep going. Yeah,
I'm fucking sweating, bro. This room's
same,
hot
bro.
as fuck,
it's
man.
Terrible. I've been itching my forehead the whole time. Anyways,
I think, however, that although Kai Kara's takedown defense is so great, I think the Pantoja is going to be getting these takedowns. I think that Kai will stuff a couple, maybe a couple early ones, and it's going to be, is Pantoja cooked? No, I don't think so.
No.
Pantoja's got people say his cardio sucks. The guy's got zombie cardio past round 3, and it's one of those cardios that eventually is going to end up, he will have more in the tank than his opponent because he keeps this zombie pace, he keeps walking forward, he keeps eating your biggest shots, and he keeps landing takedowns. He's an amazing scrambler, has some of the best scrambles in the UFC, a very legit submission threat. He's got 19 finishes as a flyweight out of 29 wins, so it's pretty fucking impressive. I'm taking Pantoja to win this fight by round 2 or 3 submission.
What the fuck? Yeah, same. And I'm not telling because you just said that. I'm taking Pantoja by round 2, 3 sub. Yeah. I think he's gonna, not even like really fraud check. I think a better word is I think he's gonna expose Kai Kara France.
Exposes about.
And the only reason I'm betting on Pantoja is so I can pay to see Kai Kara France win. I would absolutely love to see him win this fight. I'm a huge city kickboxing nerd. And if Pantoja wins in that case, then I am just getting paid to see one of my, I'd say, top 6 favorite fighters lose. And I will be buying his card before this fight starts, Kai Kara France. And so I'm praying for a dub, but I will not be betting on it, and I cannot pick it either. Because I think there's levels to this game, and Pantoja is way better than Kai Kara France. It's just,
and it's not even just that
he's I want to get behind Kai Kara France, I really do, but I don't understand where the logic is coming from people who say that Kai's going to win this fight. It's low-key ridiculous. So,
and like you say that he's so much better than Kai. It's just Pantoja is so much better than everyone right now.
My opening, I agree.
Like, seriously, the guy is on a different level.
My opening guess to these odds was, believe it or not, minus 550 to plus 385.
That's pretty crazy.
That's what I actually thought it was going to be.
What is it, minus 300?
Minus 265 to plus 215 on UFC website.
I think it's went up to like minus 300 now. But
yeah, that makes sense. Like the money's just going to keep coming in on Pantoja. It's just going to keep swaying in his favor. But
so Pantoja by sub is the pick.
Yeah.
And we move on to our amazing lightweight main event. Title shots coming around for Charles do Bronx Olivera taking on Ilia Le Legane Topuria. Recently changed his name to The Legend. It's pretty...
El Matador's way better.
Yeah, I like El Matador a lot better.
Ilia El Matador Topuria.
First thing I want to say is Charles Olivera is my favorite fighter. I'm rocking his tee right now. I've got a couple sweaters. Fucking love the guy. And this is a really, really stressful fight week for me in terms of... I saw Cody Garbrandt recently lose, who's also my favorite fighter, and then I have Charles in this spot. There's a couple perspectives here. I'm not going to fully write off Charles Olivera here. He's coming off a decision win over Michael Chandler, however, where it was a pretty close fight, except, like, it wasn't a very close fight. It was like a 50-45 or 49-46. But there was close rounds, and the striking was close.
Good moments, like,
and
from both sides.
It ultimately resulted in Oliveira's wrestling, which usually isn't his path to victory, but he had 5 or 6 takedowns in that fight and lots of control. So maybe he's evolving. He's working on those takedowns, which I can get behind. Before then, lost this close split decision to Arman Sarugian, where he had 4 submission attempts and almost got him out with a round 1 guillotine. It was extremely fucking close.
Yeah.
He also had that. He also had that really close Darce choke at the end of the 3rd round. So now we have 5 rounds here to work with that. Obviously, he had that round 1 KO over the streaking Dariush before being finished by Islam Makhachev. And before then, the very impressive from 2018 to 2022, where Charles Olivera was kind of reborn on that 12-fight winning streak, becoming undisputed champion, defending that belt once or twice. And that's the Charles Olivera we know and love. We saw Volkanovski steal that first round off of Ilia Topuria, and it came off of Volk's forward pressure. He was really walking Ilia back a lot, and it's hard to land these pure, powerful, boom, 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 head, body, head, fucking whatevers when you're going backwards, especially when someone's throwing something out there and you have to defend it, obviously. So Volk was doing that, and Volk is significantly smaller than Charles Olivera. And Charles Olivera is probably one of the best pressure fighters in the UFC in terms of this guy's going to be throwing jumping teeps at you. He's going to be throwing really good calf kicks at you. He's going to be throwing head kicks. We saw him drop Beneil Dariush with them. He's got good 1-2 punches. He's looking for takedowns. How he beat Dustin Poirier was just he pushed you against the fence, turned your hips a little bit, and the guy just jumps on your back and backpacks you and so ends up submitting Dustin Poirier. That is a serious thing that could happen in this fight. That finish, you have to go and watch Olivera versus Poirier in the 3rd round. It's very quick. He just walks him down with strikes. He throws a front kick to initiate Poirier back to the fence, and then he dives in on the hips, just turns to Poirier and jumps on, turns. It's going to be Topuria. I'm manifesting and listen to this shit.
Manifested it.
He's going to turn the hips, or he turned the hips of Poirier and just jumped right on the back. And when Oliveira's in a position like that, against someone so much smaller than Topuria, I really think he's going to have success there. However, Charles is going to have a lot of disadvantages if he's the one going backwards. We've seen how dominant Ilia Topuria is when he's going forward, when he's being the bull, and he he's coming off maybe the most impressive back-to-back wins in UFC history, over knockout wins over Max Holloway and a knockout win over Alexander Volkanovski. It's just, Oliveira does have a 5-inch reach advantage. He does have a 3-inch height advantage. I think that 3-inch height advantage is going to look more like a 5. Oliveira is a pretty big lightweight, and Ilia is pretty small for lightweight now, I guess.
How much do you think Ilia is going to be weighing in the cage?
Probably like 165, 170.
How much do you think Charles is going to be weighing?
More than that. Oliveira's a weight bully, bro. He misses weight a lot.
Yeah, exactly.
So
he normally comes in at about 172.
Yeah, I can see Oliveira coming in as the heavier guy.
There's so much evidence I feel like that people just aren't seeing for why Charles could actually win this fight and why he has way better of a chance than everyone's saying. My bad, I was talking away from the mic.
Oh, good.
But it's just so tough to pick him, man. Like, I think it could be a brutal end to the night. I think it could be a really good night and a brutal end to the night. Like, because obviously I love Charles too, and like I'm obviously always gonna put my faith in the fact that I can visually see him getting a sub, but I can also visually see him having his hand out like this and covering his guard while Ilia swoops in and hits him with a fucking double hook and honestly might put him to bed, and he's just gonna solidify himself, man, as that guy. Like, he really will, and I think that's what he needs to do. But do you think this fight goes the distance? Do you think there's any chance it goes the distance? If so, who wins?
I'd be so surprised.
I'd be surprised as fuck. Because what does that mean? Does that mean it was a boring fight then? Does that mean they were scared of each other?
No, these guys aren't gonna fight.
I don't know if they're going to slug it out, though. And if they do, I don't think Charles is going to win.
I don't think they'll slug it out. I think that Charles definitely needs to mix in the mixed martial arts here. One thing, don't take this too seriously, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are going to be talking about this. Ilia has had one fight at lightweight before in the UFC. It was against Jai Herbert, who is a taller lightweight like Charles Oliveira. And Ilia was having some slight problems with Jai Herbert's range and how he was dealing with him. He did drop him with the head kick. Obviously, that's what everyone's going to be getting at. So it's not like this guy Topuria is just unkillable. It's not like he can't get hurt. He's been dropped. Again, this is Charles Oliveira. I'm trying to defend a little bit. Oh, he gets dropped every single fight. Yeah, I'm fucking aware. However, he hasn't got dropped in his past couple fights. The Chandler one was a little bit weird, but a lot of back of the head action going on there.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I'm going to take Ilia Topuria to win this fight by knockout. I won't be fucking betting on it. I won't be hoping for it.
Actually, I will be betting on it. And I will be being stupid, and I'm betting Charles by finish.
Oh, yeah.
Charles by finish.
Yeah.
Like, that's getting bet on. I'm not betting on Ilia, respectfully. Like,
in terms of a pick and in terms of a percentage thing, I'm going to take Ilia Topuria. But my heart is screaming Charles Oliveira to win this fight by submission. I believe it'll be in round 2 if it's Charles Oliveira by sub.
We pray. And so we pray for real.
Yeah.
It's going to be sick, though. Whole card.
So that'll do it for UFC 317 International Fight Week. Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. Let us know what your thoughts are on the picks, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. There's no card next week, sadly.